I knew something was coming.
If this were made into a movie, people wouldn't believe it.
A mystery unfolds after a mother is found dead and her 6-year-old son goes missing.
This was a little kindergarten child who was suddenly here one day and gone the next.
There's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that Tim met with foul play.
Have some strangers been taking care of him all these years.
We can't wait to see you. He is absolutely out there, and it just takes one person to see him. Tim is an only child. My sister never thought she wanted to have kids. It just wasn't really in the cards for her. When she met Jim went through a bout of cancer and thought that he would be unable to have children. So when Amy got pregnant, I think both of them were so enamored with this idea of a child and a family, and they so desperately wanted Tim. Amy and Tim were inseparable. They were always together. They almost spoke their own language.
Amy was a mother and a woman struggling with a lot of demons. Jim and Amy were having problems. She had a history of mental health issues.
Did they fight? Sure. Were they talking about ending their marriage? Yes. There were some comments about who was going to get custody of Tim and what that would look like.
I believe she felt threatened that her son would be taken away from her.
And that terrified her.
James Pitson dropped his little boy, Timothy, off at Greenman Elementary School, where the little 6-year-old was a kindergarten. Half an hour later, his mother, Amy Pitson Fry, showed up at the school and told the staff there that there was a family emergency. She had to take Timothy out of class. Security footage showed them leaving the school around 8:35 a.m. He was a man stunned, is the best way I could describe him.
Jim called me in the afternoon, and I remember thinking, she's just mad. Obviously, you guys have been fighting. Just let her cool off. A few more hours pass, still no word, and Jim called the police to report them both missing. Amy and Tim drove to Brookfield Zoo, went from Brookfield Zoo to Key Lime Cove. Tim loved water parks. They stayed the night there, and then Thursday she and Tim drove to Wisconsin to another resort and stayed there.
It was like a fantasy 3-day trip of his favorite places. Security video footage spotted Amy and her son checking out of the Kalahari resort. For police, this is the very last image they have of mother and child together. No one had any idea what was coming.
I get some missed calls from my mom and called her back. Your world just stops at that point. Because I knew. I didn't know, but I knew something was coming. She told me that Amy was dead. She committed suicide. They didn't know where Tim was, that he was not with her. And I remember just so confused. What do you mean he's not? Like, how is he not with her? How is he not around? How is he not with Jim? I don't understand. Later that day, we were told by the police that there was a suicide note.
What it said was, Timothy is safe. He is with someone who loves him. He will never be found.
Those words haunt all of us every day.
That leads you to believe that Timothy is alive somewhere and just won't be located. More than 70 law enforcement officials and others scanned the Rock Falls Sterling area looking for Timothy, but came up short. Leads continued to trickle in at a rate of 5 or 6 a month. None of those ever panned out. A woman in Newport, Kentucky had spotted a young man, a young boy, disoriented, malnourished, and he said that he was Timothy Pitson.
The boy said he escaped from a hotel room where 2 men were holding him captive.
We thought, it's happening. You can't imagine that this 8-year-long nightmare is over.
DNA results showed the boy is not Timothy Pitson.
As it turned out, the 14-year-old boy posing as Timothy Pitson turned out to be a 23-year-old man who was using information he'd gotten from television to try to come across as Timothy. To this day, no one is sure why he did that.
Tim is absolutely alive, 150%. And I know this is so hard for people to see, but she would never have hurt Tim. We love you so much. We can't wait to see you.
Jalik got in the front seat and they took off. That was the last that we saw Jalik.
My heart's broken.
Oftentimes they just show back up within a day or so, but this one, something strange had happened here.
We have nothing to hide.
It just was ridiculous.
A 12-year-old boy doesn't just vanish.
My heart's broken.
Oftentimes they just show back up within a day or so, but this one, something strange had happened here.
We have nothing to hide.
If Jalik is watching this, come home.
A 12-year-old boy doesn't just vanish.
I drive by this location and I can't go by here without thinking of Jalik and thinking, you know, was there anything that I could have done to prevent this? Jalik was born to a drug-addicted mother. He went from there to a foster home, to another foster home, to another foster home. and then was placed with Stephen and Jocelyn.
I found out that my daughter and son-in-law were going to adopt Jalik. He was charming, and he was happy, and he's like very, very talkative about, I have a new family.
That should have been a forever home for him, but it didn't turn out that way.
Within an hour after the incident, my daughter had been very candid with me that she no longer wanted Jalik in the family.
We had gotten a call from Stephen Kerr asking us if we could watch Jalik for 2 weeks. The evening that I returned Jalik to his dad, it's a horrible day in our memory now. Jalik and I got in the car. He talked about what a good time he had, and I pulled in here, and Jalik said, "Oh, there's my father's car right there." Jalik got in the front seat, and they took off. And that was the last that we saw Jalik.
I walked in and it was surreal. Stephen was pacing and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Jalik just ran away. You know, here's the note."
It basically said, "I'm sorry for what I did. I won't be a bother anymore. Goodbye, Jalik." We believe, and I think the police do too, that this was a letter of apology that Jalik had written to his homeschool class.
Stephen then presents this to the police as not just an apology note, but as my son isn't just missing, but he has chosen to run away. Stephen says he picks up Jalik, he takes him to a Red Robin restaurant, they have dinner there, then the two of them leave. Stephen says that he wakes up the next morning and goes downstairs and he sees this apology note on the table.
So they began a pretty wide search. They were using dogs, helicopters, divers, they used boats.
My son-in-law, Stephen Kerr, and my daughter, Jocelyn McDonald, told the police that Jalik had been wearing a yellow fleece, a bright, bright yellow fleece. And so for months, the yellow fleece became key in trying to locate Jalik.
What we began to notice was a pattern of where there would be searches and people in, the muck or in the water, or regular volunteers going out looking for this child. And yet his own parents were nowhere to be found.
We have nothing to hide.
Honestly, that was one of the most bizarre interviews I have ever conducted in my career. He would start talking about himself and how he had taken in a child that had been thrown away, or about listening to speeches by Martin Luther King. He was just kind of all over the map.
I know that you're very passionate about Martin Luther King.
No, I'm very passionate about my son. And you know what? If you can't rely on people you call your heroes when the time is tough, who do you rely on? News media? Jerry Springer?
I walked up to the front door and I pushed it open, and I had a flashlight with me. There were some of his belongings. There were 2 piles of clothing, and in one I looked and there was this bright yellow color. So I opened it up and it was indeed the yellow fleece. I'd been looking for my grandchild child's body, you know, in this yellow fleece. Why would the fleece be sitting there when they maintained that he had disappeared in it? How did it make me feel? 12 years later, still heartbroken.
The police know that based on a cell phone call that Stephen got, that he wasn't where he said he was.
One of the other inconsistencies that police pointed to was that Stephen had indicated he was home all night after bringing Jaliek home, but when the police started checking surveillance cameras in the Greenwich Business District, they found video of a distinctive gold minivan that matched the description of Stephen's van.
He was a 12-year-old boy, and he is out there somewhere.
If my grandchild, Jaliek, is watching this and he hears my voice, come home. You know, I miss you. No questions, just come home.
A family is in shock tonight after a mother and daughter went on a camping trip but never returned home.
I knew that my worst nightmare had come true.
Here I am at home, wringing my hands, wondering where my daughter's at.
He was, I would say, devastated.
I think they had researched how to do it.
They definitely know where Kayla and Heather are.
One day we will find Kayla.
A family is in shock after a mother and daughter went on a camping trip but never returned.
Here I am at home, wringing my hands, wondering where my daughter's at.
He was, I would say, devastated.
I think they had researched how to do it.
They definitely know where Kayla and Heather are.
One day we will find Kayla.
Someday, Kayla will grow up and she will remember that she was lied to.
My relationship with Heather was, I'd kind of describe it as extreme. I feel like we had somewhat of a infatuous love for one another, and it kind of led to some problems. You know, the first time I saw my daughter back from the hospital, Heather told me she wanted to break up with me. I just kind of thought that was ridiculous.
He went from being extremely happy to being extremely depressed. I remember how heartbroken he was.
When our relationship ended, we didn't have any sort of custody in place.
Heather didn't really want Ryan in Kayla's life. She was always very difficult. She's very controlling.
Kayla was never allowed over to our house. We always had to go somewhere public.
She and her mother always blamed Ryan for ridiculous things. You know, that he didn't
feed her on time. He didn't feed her exactly what she was supposed to eat. Just silly things like that, that weren't true.
Heather was saying I couldn't see Kayla because she had some rare health problems. And when the GAL went to research her claims, he found out that they weren't true. I didn't want to believe that my daughter's mother would say things like that and lie about that. It was clear that she was saying that to influence the court case so that I would have less time with my daughter.
And Heather was not happy about that at all. Her whole family showed up and stared Ryan down.
They don't want Heather to not get her own way. Heather always has to have her own way.
Losing control, I think that might have triggered it.
He's really cute. He's spotted and he has a white belly.
I went to go pick Kayla up because she had an extended weekend with Heather. Heather's father came to the door and he just kind of had a big smile on his face and said, "Oh yeah, they're not here, they're camping." And I said, "You're kidding me. She knows I'm picking Kayla up." And he's like, "Yeah, sorry." And then he just closed the door. That's it.
That was the moment that he'd been dreading because he always thought that was a possibility, that she could just, run off with her.
My daughter was gone and I knew it.
A family is in shock tonight after a mother and daughter went on a camping trip but never returned home.
I basically had filed missing persons for both Heather and Kayla immediately, but there's basically a grace period before they would do something about it. And the weekend comes and it's like everyone went home and to their families, and here I am at home, wringing my hands, wondering where my daughter's at. Their strategy was going to be, we'll just wait and see if her car gets flagged, getting pulled over or something like that. They had found out that her car had been sold in Georgia a week or two later after the abduction.
The search for Kayla Unbahan has now moved to Georgia.
Heather's a creative person. She likes photography and art, and that was her dream, to live in Athens.
I think she's always been a little extreme in the way she has wanted to live her life. Definitely seems like something she would be interested in doing is living off the grid. She may even be with her brother, who also disappeared. Heather and her brother were very close. In fact, he moved to Georgia before she did originally. I think it's really hard to just disappear and go off the grid completely without some sort of plan.
They found a computer with sites that he'd investigated for people who want to disappear.
Organizations that would conceal your identity.
I think that they had planned this in some way. I think they had researched how to do it, and then the plan was, she would immediately disappear and then he would join up with her, and somehow he is helping her. They may even be posing as a couple and just working for cash.
I think they're just living a transient life.
I don't even know if Kayla's going to school at this point because they're on the run.
Heather's family knows where Heather and Kayla are. I am certain of that.
One day we will find Kayla,
Kayla, we will always take you back. We will always love you for who you are, no matter what happens.
Peekaboo! Peekaboo!
Kayla, I love you so much, and I want nothing more than to have you back in my life and have many years of good times together and have you be a part of everyone's life who loves you.
I don't think there's one situation as unique as this particular situation.
Everybody's a suspect in my eyes. Everybody.
We've had sightings all the way to Texas.
Just give us back our kids.
Somebody out there knows where these children are. I don't think there's one situation as unique as this particular situation.
Chicago police launched one of their biggest searches ever for two missing sisters, just 10 and 3 years old.
Who got the babies?
We've had sightings all the way to Texas.
Just give us back our kids.
Somebody out there knows where these children are.
I won't give up. And even if I happen to die before then, my spirit ain't leaving. I'm gonna haunt your ass forever.
This is the home of Diamond and Tiana. These two youngsters was 3 and 10 years old. This is the area that Tracy decided to bring and raise her family. This is one of the parks where the kids actually played at. As you can see, it's a park within a gated fence community. It's right there where their home is. It's just a short step away from the doorway. But in July of 2001, something happened to these girls.
2 young children have been reported missing from the south side of Chicago.
I'll never forget. This is the part I don't like. A beloved friend, he called, he said, Tracy kids are missing. And I'm, what the hell? You mean Tracy kids are missing? And I turned to Channel 9 and there were Tiana and Diamond pictures there on the TV.
This is Doolittle School. This is the school where Tiana came with Diamond.
When it was time to go in to the school, the assistant principal was at the door, and Tiana tried to sneak Diamond in there. And the principal told her, you can't bring baby girl in the school. If only he had let them in, they wouldn't be missing.
It's my understanding that Tracy attempted to call home to do a well-being check on the children, as she does always. Tiana received a call at an unknown time saying there was an individual by the name of George at the door.
Well, I still have to find myself asking which George. She didn't say a last name. She said George.
Tracy arrived home from work. She called out for her children. There was no response. Upon going over to the sofa, she noticed there was a note It stated that Tiana and Diamond had actually went to a local grocery store into the park.
But for Tiana to leave a note was kind of suspicious because she would not have left a note. The grammatical structure and the sentence structure was not the way Tiana spoke.
So we found out to be kind of strange. Now it's time to put boots on the ground because we have a really serious situation where these two young children are missing for real.
Chicago police are leaving no stone unturned in the search for Tianda and Diamond Bradley.
To this day, one of the largest searches in the Chicago Police Department in history. They decided to put all hands on deck. They decided to do something that no other law enforcement has ever done, bringing in cadets right out of the Chicago Police Department Academy, searching for these children by air, by water, to determine the fact, where could these kids be? Unfortunately, the girls lived around a lot of folks that were sexual offenders.
Let me say, everybody's a suspect in my eyes. Everybody. But there was a sex offender that was actually in the presence of Tianda and Diamond that was an acquaintance to their mom. And I recognized him from the sex offender registry in Illinois.
We actually interviewed that individual. Turns out that he was, nowhere around at that time. The tip that did come out of Texas with a young lady sent out through the girl's Facebook page that, "Hi, I'm Diamond and Tianda."
I got a message saying that, "Auntie, this is Tianda." And I'm like, okay. But then the girl started sending pictures of a little baby, saying it was Diamond's baby.
We sent the FBI down there to take a closer look at it. Upon interviewing the young lady, we found out that this young lady was suffering from some mental illness.
A lot of people can say, "I'll pray for you," or "I'm sorry," but they don't know how those of us with missing family members feel. If I had to describe hell without the heat, that would be it. Oh, thank God for Facebook. I had put up a post with Tianda's last school photo, and 4 different people contacted me. And these were 3 girls that she went to school with. They stated Diamond and Tianda was down there playing on the playground, and that they did see Tianda walk up to a Caucasian person who had on a trench coat, some glasses, and to this day they wonder why did this white guy in the summer have on a trench coat. But to me, that was vital information that should have been shared 18 years ago.
It's our understanding that somebody returned back to that apartment and took possession of those children. We encourage people from social media to continue to bring in those tips, and we want people to know that they are continue to be anonymous with those tips.
We need answers. It's not fair that a family can't even get closure. If they're deceased, don't they deserve a proper funeral?
We're not going to stop looking for you. And if it takes my grandchildren to find these children, that's what we're going to do.
I just had a really bad feeling.
He said, "I've got another call. I'll call you right back." And I'm still waiting.
The teen said he was going on a camping trip but never returned.
I broke down. I said, "Somebody needs to help me. I'm Nico's mom. I'm doing this because I want to find my son."
I just had a really bad feeling.
He said, I've got another call. I'll call you right back. And I'm still waiting.
The teen said he was going on a camping trip but never returned.
I broke down. I said, somebody needs to help me.
It destroyed us.
I'm Nico's mom. I'm doing this because I want to find my son. He was a devil. He was very rambunctious.
I thought he was funny.
I introduced him into wrestling.
I think he was 8 years old when he won the national championship. He did not like anybody being bullied, and he would stick up for that person.
Nico was always out for the underdog. Sometimes that got him in trouble. One day I was taking pictures of Nico and his little sister, and I just had this overwhelming feeling that this might be the last time I take pictures of him. It was shortly thereafter that he disappeared.
About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he pulled in with the truck and one of his buddies in the truck with him. I never met the kid that I saw in the vehicle that day that I later found out was Robbie Knight.
They didn't like each other in school, and I found it odd that Nico was with him.
Nico said, well, we're going away for the weekend. Met some girls online, and we're going to go up to Niagara Falls area, and we're going to go camping with them. I said, you're going camping way up there with some girls that you don't even know?
Nico had never been anywhere without family.
I said, where'd you get the truck at? He goes, oh, it's Robbie's grandfather's. He came up to me as he was leaving, and he put his arms around me and gave me a big hug for longer than he normally would. And I just pulled back and I looked at him. I said, everything all right? And he says, yeah, everything's good. He says, I love you. I'll see you this weekend.
My brother was alarmed enough that he called me.
I don't know what it was, but I just had a really bad feeling.
I went to bed and thought, oh, what is he up to now? I went to work Saturday morning, and my sister did here with me at that time.
One of my clients came in and asked if we had seen the paper that day.
And she said, did you guys hear about that stolen truck?
My sister Monica, the color just drained out of her face.
So I got a hold of Robbie's grandmother, and I said, well, does Robbie have your truck? And she said, we don't have a truck. And right then I knew that those boys were involved in the theft of that truck. And I said, those boys are in trouble. And she drops the bomb on me that Robbie had supposedly arrived in Michigan that morning. And I said, well, where is Nico? And she said, well, we don't know. No one saw him.
Robbie was explaining how he got there, and it brought up Nico, and they wanted to know where Nico was or what happened to Nico.
And during that interview,
Robbie had some kind of breakdown and was taken to a mental hospital.
But after they released him from the hospital a couple days later, he was dead.
We were told Robbie died of a drug overdose.
So there were years of wondering, did Robbie Knight do something to my son on the way to Michigan? Did he dump him out along the side of the road somewhere?
He was the last link that we knew of to Nico. I don't think that they thought that Nico was missing. I think they thought that he was on the run, hiding out, that he had taken this truck.
I laid on the bathroom floor and just screamed and cried. And I remember feeling like I was never going to see my son again. With me having his phone records, we had determined that his phone had traveled to Franklin, Tennessee.
From what we have learned, Nico had a friend, an acquaintance who lived on Flintlock Drive, who also told us that Nico had been there and visited and stayed overnight on October 1st, 2011.
I felt if the police aren't going to Tennessee, I'm going to Tennessee.
The young man told us that Nico arrived at his house. He told us 3 different stories. The first story was that Nico arrived on foot. The second story was someone had dropped him off at the end of the street. And the third story, I think, was maybe somebody dropped him off at the house. None of the stories were the same.
We walked out of that house that day, and I was just sick. And I said, no, there's something going on here. I said, they know way more than what they're saying. And I honestly felt like, is my son chained up in their cellar? Or is he in there buried in their backyard?
Something was wrong.
I decided I'm calling the commander of New York State Police. I said, there's been no contact from Nico, and I want something done.
New York State Police held a press conference in Franklin, Tennessee, asking for tips on the whereabouts of Nico or any kind of information.
And Thursday evening, they called me and told me they found the truck.
After almost 5 years of dead-end leads, police finally found the pickup truck that Nico Lisi had been driving when he went missing.
And it was like someone had just wiped the floor out from underneath me.
It was in a garage, and it had been totally torn down. The engine was gone.
We thought, this is the break that we've been looking for. We're going to find out what happened to him.
The property in Nashville, Tennessee, where the truck was found, is owned by the same family that I talked to the son on December 18th of 2011. And that truck was in that garage the whole time. New York investigators and the Franklin PD detective had asked Nashville Metro to process the garage as a crime scene, and they would not do it. I do not know what the reasons were. The boy that lived in the house where the truck was found, he died in 2014, before the truck was ever found. I also learned that there was another boy named that helped in destroying the truck. That boy is also deceased. So we have Nico missing, we have Robbie Knight dead, now we have people in Tennessee dead.
To be quite honest about the investigation, disappointment doesn't begin to cover it.
I just feel there were a lot of things that were missed.
We've been waiting 8 years to hear his voice again.
He was 18 years old, he was a kid. He was a punk, but he was my kid, and I love him.
Ariana is just the most energetic, sweetest, outgoing kid.
We kind of just thought it was like some sort of cruel joke or something.
A tragedy and a mystery tonight as a mother is found murdered and her 2-year-old daughter goes missing.
Everything was crazy after that.
They've done unrepairable damage.
If you are watching, tell us where Ariana is and turn yourself in. Ariana is just the most energetic, sweetest, outgoing kid that I have ever met.
My first thought was that she was in some sort of accident.
We had no idea what could have happened.
A tragedy and a mystery tonight. Police begin their search for an abducted 2-year-old.
Everything was crazy after that.
They've done unrepairable damage.
If you are watching, tell us where Ariana is and turn yourself in. Nikki's kids were her world. Ariana was her butterfly.
She was constantly walking around and meeting everybody.
A very signature smile that literally lights up a room.
I just really loved playing with Ariana.
Claire, Nikki, and I, we all lived together in Pacifica.
The rent was becoming increasingly difficult to keep up with, and we ended up having to put our notice in.
That's when Nicole broke down and told me that she didn't have a place to stay.
She was going to be going to a homeless shelter.
That's where she met Lemasani Briggs.
And Nikki ended up moving in with her. Lemasani promised her a place to stay until she got back on her feet.
Lemasani Briggs claims to be a pastor of a church.
But she has no home church.
And Lemasani was charging her so much for rent, Nikki didn't even have a key to the house.
The living conditions were just outrageous, especially for someone who's claiming to be helping her, claiming to be a pastor.
It just seems like a way for Lemasani to take advantage of people.
Nikki became unhappy with Lemasani's caretaking.
Lemasani would send disgusting, terrible texts to Nikki
about what she's doing wrong, telling her that she needs to focus on God.
They had a disagreement about who she should be hanging out with, who she should be seeing.
Lemasani became very possessive over Ariana. Lemasani claimed that Ariana is her baby.
She tells Nikki, "Bring my baby back to me."
It's very unsettling. She found help with Lemasani's nieces for childcare.
Cielo Hearn, Helena Hearn, and Devin Martin.
They were willing to watch Ariana. I think Nicole did pay them with the little income that she made and her trying to find a place to stay. She didn't really have much of a choice either.
I had told her, "You're unhappy with Lemasani, why are you going to her family?" And she was very adamant that she could trust them. Once Nikki found childcare with Lemasani's nieces, everything escalated really quickly.
Nikki would tell them that she's coming to pick Ariana up, and they would have excuses as to why they're not there. One in particular that I remember is that they told Nikki that they took Ariana to Disneyland. And I think it just kind of became different excuses following that.
They were a little possessive. She would show me some text messages about how they believe that she might have been a bad influence on Ariana.
I believe they had no intention of giving Ariana back.
Nicole, and I were out for several hours. We stopped to grab a bite to eat. We did stop to grab some money. She did take out a lot. I don't remember the exact amount, but she said it was to pay the babysitters.
I believe that they told Nikki that if she paid them what she owes them for babysitting is the only way that they would give Ariana back.
I dropped her off at her place and I drove off. That was the last time I saw her. I believe it was the next morning that I got a phone call from our mutual friend and it was like, Nicole didn't come home last night. And I was like, what do you mean? I dropped her off. I saw her, going in. She said she came home for a little bit, but she got a message and left, and she never came back.
My first thought was that she was in some sort of accident. We were absolutely worried about Ariana as well from the start.
There was a message posted on Facebook that said, I'm with my 3-year-old, need this break. I know Nikki didn't write that because break was spelled wrong. And Ariana wasn't 3 at the time. Ariana was only 2.5. It was totally bogus. It was not Nikki. It was all false.
I had gone to the Hall of Justice with the hope of being helpful.
He starts with, this is the hardest thing to ever have to tell anyone. And I didn't let him finish. I knew exactly what he was going to say.
Nicole was found murdered.
The 32-year-old mother was discovered in McLaren Park, buried in a shallow grave.
They had found her underneath a plywood board right next to a sidewalk.
Couldn't believe it was real.
If you knew Nicole, you knew she was a kind person. She would do anything for anybody. Nothing made sense to me.
There were no signs of Ariana.
If Nicole was going out to go meet with the babysitters, how is she dead? Where's Ariana?
It was kind of outrageous to learn that Helena had been previously arrested and served time for killing the father of her child.
Everything kind of pointed to the babysitters. The babysitters said they haven't seen Ariana in almost a few weeks, which was very confusing. If the babysitters didn't have Ariana and Nicole didn't have Ariana, who had Ariana?
I absolutely believe that Nikki's murder has everything to do with Ariana's disappearance. I believe that the same people are behind both. I believe that Nikki's murder was for the reason of abducting Ariana. I wish I could do more to find Ariana. It scares me to think of how far she could have gone by now.
But we're still looking. We're still hoping.
You took my sister from me. You took a mother from her kids. And if you are watching, the only thing you can do at this point is tell us where Ariana is and turn yourself in.
She was my one and only friend.
She went on a walk and she never came back. I literally had a panic attack for 20 minutes.
She would have reached out to somebody. She wouldn't just walk up and disappear.
From the time she left her house, it was just a total mystery. She just vanished.
She was my one and only friend.
She went on a walk and she never came back.
The 15-year-old disappeared after leaving her Fort Lauderdale home, and no one has heard from her since.
I literally had a panic attack.
She would have reached out to somebody. She wouldn't just disappear.
From the time she left her house, it was just a total mystery. She just vanished.
Sophie was a very happy child. I never had any problems with her.
As a friend, she was very caring towards me. She's like a flower. She's so pretty.
She was very good with art. If she put her mind to it, she would have had a career in art. But Sophie as a teenager she was tough.
She had problems with authority and didn't want to be told what to do.
It was a habit of hers, unfortunately, that she would walk late at night.
She wouldn't tell anybody or inform anybody that she was sneaking out.
Nicole was a strict mother and didn't want her child out past, normal hours, and she didn't want her to get in trouble.
We used to egg churches and, that rebel kid, teenager life.
Sometimes she would come home and she would destroy the house. She would be violent. She would say she wished I would die. It was terrible. I didn't know what to do. If I look back on it, I probably would say she was suffering some kind of mental illness.
And it came to a point where Sophie didn't like the rules and ended up moving back to her father's location in Fort Lauderdale.
Her relationship with her father wasn't very close.
When she moved in with him, I think that she thought it was going to be something that it wasn't.
He wouldn't ask anything. Where are you going? What friends are you hanging out with? Just like he didn't necessarily care.
She had all the freedom that she wanted. She could do whatever she wanted, yet she still wasn't happy. I found garter belts, lingerie, liquor, a BB gun. I was completely shocked. I literally had a panic attack for 20 minutes, and I confronted her about it. Sophie just smirked. You could never get a straight answer out of Sophie. Sophie was not a confident child. And then all of a sudden, she's like overbearingly confident. She was just saying how beautiful she was, how she could be a star, how she could be a model. Another girl would walk by and she would say, oh, that girl is not as beautiful as I am. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, there was a difference with her.
I didn't recognize that person. The last thing I said to her is, Sophie, please promise me that you won't be out late at night. Whatever you're doing, you need to stop. Her dad had said that he hadn't seen her for 4 days and wished she lived at my house.
When I heard this news, I was worried. I didn't know what to think.
I couldn't even grasp it. I thought she would come back, but she never did.
My partner saw a missing poster of a child in Fort Lauderdale, and when I called the number, I ended up talking to Sylvie's mother, Nicole. We've been talking for the past 2.5 years regarding this case and trying to get some type of answers. Surveillance showed Sophie walking down the sidewalk at 10 p.m. wearing headphones, shorts, and some type of jacket. And then once she gets out of the camera view, no telling where she went to or with who. There was information that she may have been communicating with someone via the internet.
She had used my iPad, and I had found that she was on a sugar daddy website.
She spoke about like having a sugar daddy at 14 years old. She's just like, I'm just trying to get money. They would pay for me just to be there.
When I talk to people about it now, they say that she probably was being groomed.
A SWAT team went to the house. There were 3 adult black males at the house, also an older black female. Law enforcement recovered, like I said, 30 or 40 cell phones, laptops, headphones, but apparently it wasn't the headphones that Sophie was wearing the night she was missing. No one was brought in, no one was charged with any type of crime. I believe that Sophie may be a victim of human trafficking. It's the fact that how quick she disappeared, her cell phone was turned off, and no communications whatsoever with her family, her friends, nobody.
She would have reached out to somebody. She wouldn't just walk up and disappear.
For the past several years, Florida was number 3 in the country for human trafficking. Unfortunately, they get involved with the wrong person. There's drugs involved, and now they're having sex with customers on a daily basis because someone is forcing them to do that, and there's no way out.
We just don't know. We simply don't know. That's the scary part.
We're looking for a miracle that someone will, tell us what's going on or give us some type of lead.
I hope that if somebody's watching this video and they knows what happened to Sophie, that they come forward.
It's not normal for a 7-year-old to just disappear.
He just vanished with no trace. There's no cameras, there's no witnesses, it was just nothing.
Everybody's a suspect at the beginning. Everybody in the area, they all remember Patrick.
We still like to think he's out there somewhere and that one day we'll find him.
I'm begging you as a mother to just please let my son come home.
It's not normal for a 7-year-old to just disappear.
He just vanished with no trace. There's no cameras, there's no witnesses, it was just nothing.
Everybody's a suspect at the beginning. Everybody in the area, they all remember Patrick.
We still like to think he's out there somewhere and that one day we'll find him.
I'm begging you as a mother Could you just please let my son come home?
I'm investigating a little boy that went missing 10 years ago from this building right here. If you could, please take that and maybe show it to somebody or put it in a store someplace close to where you live. Any information that we get would be greatly appreciated. It'll be 10 years in about a month on January 22nd. It was one of those cases that it touches everybody's heart because that's the nightmare of a parent, of a child disappearing.
Patrick, he was a very smart, funny, he was a good brother to his little sisters. He's a very good kid. He was like the best thing that ever happened to me. I try to keep him active, like go to school, take him to the park, cook their dinner. You know, I had a routine with them. My mother had a history of drugs and my father died when he was 34, I was 8. So, like everything I've been through when I was young, I wanted to be totally different. I didn't want my kids to ever experience that. I didn't get help for my childhood. So as I started having my children at teen years, it started being overwhelming for me. Jaylene was 4, Patrick was 7. And I was just going through my, my depression, I was crying. I just felt like I couldn't deal with what was going on anymore. So I called and I told them that I was high. I told them that I need them to come take my children so I could go get the help that I need to get better for my children.
She says, I voluntarily gave them to child services because she wanted to help herself with her substance abuse issues. She just thought this was the best way to help them.
And that was the worst thing I ever did in my life.
Patrick and Jaylene were placed with their foster mother on the 29th of December in 2009.
He was extremely unhappy. A little 7-year-old boy removed from his mom. And from what I'm told, the foster mom didn't speak English at all, only Spanish.
I was angry, but I couldn't do anything. I reported it to the agency. The agency said they was gonna take care of it, and they didn't take care of it.
Like most kids, I mean, all you know is your mother. You're like, he loved his mother very much, and that's all he wanted to be with. His foster mother and him were supposed to go out and put garbage in the garbage bin in the hallway. When the phone rang, she went back to answer the phone, and he went down the hall on his own. The sister was standing in the doorway, saw that he disappeared. She didn't know where he went.
She said she remembers that day like it was yesterday. She don't know what happened to her brother. She said, Patrick! And was no response to his voice.
He was actually seen by a neighbor up on the 16th floor around the same time frame that he went missing, but that's the last sighting of Patrick on the 22nd.
I woke up on January 23rd to a bang on my door, and the detective, he has this flyer in his hand, and it's on his face. And he's like, we're looking for your son. I'm like, what do you mean looking for my son? He's like, your son disappeared last night.
A massive search is underway in Brooklyn for a 7-year-old boy who went missing from a foster home.
Police responded about 30 minutes after the foster mother discovered that he was missing. They searched the trash compactors in the building, they searched the elevator shafts. Aviation came and they did a search of all the rooftops, all the vacant parking lots and shopping centers in the area to see if they can get sighting of him.
The bloodhounds that were brought in traced his scent to a bus stop directly outside the building, 130 Vidalia Avenue. That's where the scent was lost.
Every one of those buildings in that area were searched. Every door was knocked on. Every person that was in and around the area was interviewed. There's several waterways right around that area that were searched by our Scooby team on several different dates to see if he happened to have gotten into the water. They all turned up negative.
There's no cameras, there's no witnesses, it was just nothing. It's just unbelievable how a child could just vanish and nobody knew nothing.
It definitely has us still scratching our heads.
Jennifer Rodriguez was arrested today under suspicion she was involved in her son's disappearance.
I just felt like, wow, my son's missing after I called you for help and then you throw me in jail.
It wasn't just Jennifer, that they followed up with aunts and uncles and cousins just to see if there's any connection to anyone that could have taken him, maybe thought they had a better place for him. It was told to us that he was very street smart and that he could have found his way back to his home in Staten Island on his own.
He was in only pajamas, and it was the middle of January at night. If he tried to run away on his own, I don't think he would make it very far.
I believe that if he had the opportunity to call me, he would have. Because he knew my number by heart. He knew his address, he knew everything. He would have reached out to us.
The mother of missing Patrick Alford has filed a federal lawsuit against New York City, alleging state negligence and failure to care for the 7-year-old.
The $6 million goes to the private investigator, the reward, and the billboard. Anything that can be used towards finding my son. In June, we decided to put up a billboard.
And I wanted the billboard close to where Patrick disappeared. I wanted it to be in the area so people who maybe work in the area for 10 years or longer, something may jar their memory. I got one credible lead that after I followed up on it, it absolutely made me believe that Patrick is alive someplace. The lead let it be known that they think that he was brought to Puerto Rico, that he may be in Puerto Rico right now. And it's a lead that I've been following ever since. Hi, miss. I'm investigating the disappearance of this little boy, Patrick Alford. Someone from my team is out here at least once a week, distributing flyers and asking questions to anybody that will stop and talk with us about the disappearance or the memory of Patrick.
This might be the year that they feel the need to actually call and give us the information that we need to find out what actually happened to him.
There's a $250,000 reward. There's also a Crime Stoppers reward from the NYPD for $12,000. It's a substantial reward for information leading to Patrick's safe recovery.
I just need to find my son. It's like a nightmare, not knowing anything. I have hope that he's gonna come home, but my life will never be complete and 100% happy without my son. Like, how can I? I would tell Patrick, I love you. I'm never gonna give up on you. And be strong.